Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And we are going to discuss more of the occultated knowledge, the Hermetic science. And basically, if I was going to rewrite the Kabbalion written by three initiates, is what we're going to be discussing. And you will find that those same principles are within what I talk about. But the principles in the three initiates, like all is mind, gender, polarity, frequency, rhythm, vibration, correspondence, etc., even though I think they're a good point in the right direction, but they're not the end all be all. And it seems the more I observe people, uh, people have an ability to take in information and turn it into what they want. You know, see how it fits into their model or paradigm of reality and go with it. Certain people live in a world of story, of right and wrong, good or evil, or aliens did it, or conspiracy theories, them, they. I watched a video, someone was like, aliens and jinn are the same thing, angels and aliens. And so it's almost like people are trying to create a name for themselves. And I just think there's a lot of false leaders, a lot of crazy people. Just when I look at their motive, it's for attention and money, which turns into power. Creating a collective myth for a bunch of people to be brainwashed into and join them on a self-made hallucination of mind. And the manifestations of that could be ET alien encounters, experiences with the so-called them and they, following them around, but then nothing too substantial. Maybe a blurry photo, maybe a scratch or two. And so all this like poltergeist activity is generated under the principle of mind. So this is the way to use the book, The Three Initiates. You examine the event like an investigator. And instead of having an ulterior motive to prove, that there's a divine presence, and all is good and humanity's going to be saved. Like, we have these deep beliefs inside of ourselves. Like, I have a really, really powerful friend and gifted and able to move through the ethers, very psychic, very powerful creator. Yet the stumbling block is this need to believe in the good of humanity. The need to believe that there's a purpose to why humans exist, and unfortunately was deeply impressed with religious concepts like a savior outside of themselves, a Jesus. Um, and and so when certain out of the box events happen, whether they're conjured or not, when that person doesn't understand, puts that unknown X that we cannot solve, she shoves it into that box and proclaims, kind of like a religious zealot, and claims the power of God and claims the power of Jesus. And that becomes a dark shadow. It it obfuscates, it mystifies the transcendent experience that's actually happening. It mystifies, it obscures, it muddies, it tarnishes, it mutates the path of direct consciousness, of direct knowing, and access to direct power to create change in the world through the vehicle of mind. And so the way I am talking is the way of the occultist, is the way of the hermeticist. And so it's really hard for people to throw away their religion, to basically kill their ego. You could write in the center of a page the word me, and then you could create like a mind map around that word me. You know, it might include some of your favorite memories. So mine would include my dog and my loving relationship I had with my dog growing up. Special moments, that I've kept, as a collage of my life through the last 45 years. That goes on the page of me. That connects like a spider web, like a mind map to the word me. And we forget that the actual page that we wrote all that on, that medium, is I. So through the objective view, we look at the letters, we look at the ink, we look at the words and everything we tacked on. The mind map is held together objectively as a word me, the character on stage. And yet we fail time and time again to honor the paper that I wrote it on, and maybe even the ink, So we are multifaceted beings. So sometimes we get stuck with the story that other people are telling, the character, or the sequence of events. All this objectified material turns into mind matter, turns into logic. It turns into the dust that blocks the way of true seeing. So the hermeticist, the occultist knows my body and my five senses is a tool. It is the sword. It is the chalice. It is the pentacle. It is the wand. In archaic terms, the tools of the magician. But to bring it up to date into the present moment, my mind, my body, my senses, they're a satellite. They are a microscope. They are a telescope. They are a surgeon's knife. And could even be the alcohol that cleanses the tools. And so the updated tools of the magician are not the archaic ones of the tarot deck of King Arthur, Britannia's legendary wizards and knights and lordships and queenships. We have a new vocabulary, an updated model. And so observation could be the true meaning of the eye in the triangle, which points to direct awareness and consciousness. But we know this through ourself. So ascension type religions have ideas like climbing up a mountain, being separated. The chosen one is separated from the pack. They are a select few. This attitude goes into religious cult-like behavior. And what sells is this group mind drinking the Kool-Aid, agreements. We're all going to heaven. We're all going to land. We're all going to go be beamed up on a spaceship. ETs are going to save us. Let's get together and get into these big group conversations of agreement to create an alteration in reality, a mass hallucination, to the point of it's real. Now, this is what a lot of people don't realize about mind, fantasy, visualization. It can get to the point where it's so real. This is the conjuring. This is the illusion part of magic. And possibly to the brink of altering reality. It takes a lot of work and energy. Unfortunately, it attracts a lot of crazy people, a lot of people with empty lives who have no hope, who have no faith, who have no self-interest. So there's a lot of self-abandonment going on. A lot of broken people go into these mass group gatherings of ashrams, of following gurus and leaders and mystics, and because they have no story of their own, they have no character. When you go to that piece of paper and we write the word me, there's a lot of fragmented elements there. There's no continuity, there's no structure, there's no crystallization. So this is the dangerous part of the occult, because when it's time to examine the page, yet you don't know how to make use of the page to write a beautiful story of the story of you. When you can't form a network of experiences that solidify an identity, then we run into psychosis. Then we run into situations where people go on a mass shooting, where they neglect their responsibilities, trying to transcend and communicate with angels, or stare into a crystal ball for 8 hours a day, and they lose themselves. They don't take care of their body. They're out of balance. And this because the identity, the sense of self, is not strong. People pleasers, try to find their purpose in the world and get consumed by the world. Your environment is bigger than you. So they all fall prey to this irrational stuff. Blame it on them, blame it on they, conspiracies, whatever. In the end, and so there is a process. You have to train to get ready for space travel. You have to practice being in zero gravity. They do all this training, months and years of training, so they can then go in the rocket ship and have an experience on the moon or in outer space, on a space station or whatever it is. So I'm sure you have to train and train and train to be a pilot for a jet. And who knows what that training is. So there's a lot of training that goes in to fulfilling the purpose of your desire. And that's what your everyday life is about. It's a continuous training. So whatever your aspiration is, there's a connection of mind, of body, and you could say spirit, or dub out the word spirit and say energy or consciousness, or true self. So you can literally dub out spirit for the truth of yourself, because God within basically says the most authentic you is that truth, is that spark. So we're moving into subjective mastery of the subjective elements. We tend to think of subjective stuff as feminine, of an emotional nature, and once again abstract. Yet the subjective is objective at the same time, because we acknowledge it. We're like, once you start looking at your dream, it's objective. It's dream images, it's scenario, it's story, it's symbolic, and we gain meaning from it or value. So we're looking a lot at our motives, and then we're looking a lot at the tool, the vehicle to assist us in getting that thing that we want, that desire, that purpose. So the purpose can be very abstract. It can be, I want an experience of God. I want an experience of, you know, another dimension. I want an experience of life after death, transcendent. You know, I want meaning and value in my life. And as the occultist, we then have to examine the vehicle. Does it have 4 tires? Is there gas? Is there oil? Is it tuned up? Is everything running okay? Is there transmission fluid? Is there radiator fluid? You know, some very, very basic things before we go on this journey, whether it's to have a magical experience, transcendent experience, or very ordinary experience, you know? And so this examination, let's look at our tools. And then maybe they need a cleaning. Maybe they need a tune-up. Maybe they need a sharpening, you know? And then maybe other people need to look at these tools that we have, our mind, you know, our body, our energy. And then we might need assistance. We might need to go to the gym to work out, to have this extra sense of strength that we're actually going to need for a ritual. And people don't realize that your physical body is calibrated through repetition to handle human experiences. People yelling and screaming at you, music in the background all day long, cars, and all the emotional crap that goes on and the mental chaos. That's what we're attuned to. Now you're going to contact an interdimensional being 10 times the intelligence of a human. Could you imagine the emotional levels of that? We never think about that. Oh, this entity's emotional capacity could be like a tsunami. You know, it could wipe you out. It could have your brain go offline. So solar flares, I mean, just a solar wind from the sun knocks out power, you know, and disturbs transmissions. That's a solar flare. And now you're going to want to contact, supposedly you want to contact an archangel. You want to a more powerful angel than a regular angel. Your body isn't calibrated. Your brain isn't calibrated for that. So you might draw a blank, you know, and so you have to look at how much gas is in the tank. Okay, I'm 64 years old. I want to contact an archangel. Can your physical body handle it? I suggest eating right, training for at least 6 months to a year and a half. And, you know, and then we have to look at the roadmap. Do you know how to get there? Maybe this isn't a one-time shot. Maybe you need to travel this, look at the map, travel it a few times, visualize it, GPS it, go on a road trip at your leisure, so you know how long it takes to get there and back. Now, really go. And go directly and go there swiftly and achieve that, you know, vacation spot, you know, or that new work to wrap, that new way to work. So time it. I had to time the tracks to get to work. My old job, I could just walk to work. Very convenient. I didn't need a vehicle. Then my life got so convenient, I needed to disrupt it. And I go, okay, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and get a job in town. slash the city. And who cares how long it takes? Who cares how much money I spend? I am going to do this because I need to change my life. So the need came out of a deeper need. The need for change, the need to grow, was stronger than my need of convenience. And my need for financial security, even. I need to even put that at risk. And so I had to learn how the tracks moved. Okay, the direction going like east and west has a different timing than north and south. Ridiculous. And on the weekends, it only runs, instead of every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes. So I need to account for the basically 30-minute delay. I need to arrive 30 minutes early and then possibly expect a 30-minute delay sometimes when the timing doesn't work. Versus the regular days of the week, Monday through Friday, it's every 15 minutes. And so I had to learn the nature of the track system. Now, those were just the hard facts. There were soft factors. How many transients are going to be on there? How many times am I going to get accosted? Because that happens and whatever. Where am I going to sit? And then more of the softer things is there garbage everywhere? Is there piss on the seat? Other weather conditions, my shoes, did I wake up, how is my body feeling, how fast am I going to run to the tracks, am I going to walk to the tracks, do these shoes actually work? And so there's a lot of soft factors, and that was just to get to work and back. So, and what's really weird, it's always faster going to work or to my destination, and for some reason it's always slower and takes more time to get back. So the timing, the manifestation of this there and back is a big ordeal. And you're going to do this how many days a week? So that is, when you look at a ritual, when you look at your ceremony this way, it doesn't go according to plan in your mind. There's all these other factors, the cut and the grain of the wood, how big is the room? What's the temperature? What phase is the moon in? So the occultist looks at these, examines these things. The ritual space is a laboratory, is an experimenting circle. And that's so different than what we're taught. Books are sold, get back at your friend, get a boyfriend, get a job. It's saying you're going to jump into this magic circle, summons an entity to get what you want. And they never really spell out the labor, the planning, the construction of a creation of an event with your rudimentary tools, your bell, your incense, your sword, your chalice, your voice, to tone the names of invocation, to open the gates of the four directions. And so there's probably three times the amount of planning that goes into a ritual. So this video kind of went a different direction because I almost felt like I needed to lay the foundations of actual occult working. It's not so much people sitting up in an office in a penthouse skyscraper business building, plotting to take over the world with symbols on dollar bills, or it's not some dark circle of something perverse, morally against what we've created for ourselves. No, it's far more relaxed, slow paced, methodical, planned out, more like a laboratory. And it's not like you're getting paid to do your magical ritual. Uh, it's not like you have a boss hanging over you going, you're doing this incorrectly. You don't have like some guru, spiritual leader telling you how to do your yoga pose, you know? So it's very self motivated. And you have to get to know the nature of your abilities. Like, like someone who is really good at sailing a ship spends so much time on the water, they form a relationship with the water, and they form a relationship with their boat to the point where they give it a name. And, you know, and it has characteristics. How is the boat feeling today? What's the mood? What's the temperament? Are we going to get through this water? How is the ocean feeling this way? And so your favorite lake, you might give it a personalized name. You know, Nessie. How is Nessie feeling today? And the sailor gets a sense of that ocean, of that sea, of that lake, whatever it is that they're sailing on, moving through the water on. It could be your swimming pool. And they respect it. You know, some of that temperament might show up as a temperature, you know, and then the boat or vehicle, you know, it ages, it's changing all the time, it's wearing out, it's decaying. And so the ship you sailed on last week is not the same ship you sailed on another week later. Change has happened. You know, parts and pieces are breaking under the pressure of gravity. And so this is kind of in the subjective realm, but there's a lot of information going in, and it gets understood, you know, by naming the lake. It gets understood by naming the ship. It gets understood by words like cranky. Oh, like let's say the ship is named Jenny. Jenny, my favorite ship. Oh, you're feeling cranky today. Do you think you can get across Nessie? We're gonna work with Nessie. You know. And so me as the sailor, I'm like, okay, I understand. Jenny's cranky today. What do I need to do to make this work? How do I calm her down? I need to, you know, make sure all the parts and pieces are working, maybe give it a tune up. And you know what? Today I feel intuitively I shouldn't take her out. Then, you know, I do some repairs and find out, oh yeah, it really wasn't a good idea. There's some serious repair work that has to be done. I won't even be able to sell her out this season. I have to actually get her out of the water, get some professional work done, and then looking forward to the next season. So that intuitive relationship, that sympathetic relationship, you relate that way with your special tools. You relate that way with your body. So there's a lot of know thyself in soft ways, but in also very literal ways, very logical, linear, objective ways, but sympathetic, creative, poetic ways. And so magic and poetry, magic and art cannot be separated. You know, I can't stress this enough. And I feel like a lot of people fill in the gaps with ego. They fill in the gaps with belief systems and agendas. And we lose the spirit or the fullness, the strength of the art when we're either discounting the logic, the reason, the sensibility, the objective, the practical, in favor of maybe the sympathetic, the creative, the pretty, the how it should look art creatively, the illusion of the image. We get lost in the image, the sensation, the feel of it, when it is a combination of science and art, poetry, philosophy. And so we tend to lean on our strengths and ignore our weaknesses. And in truth, you need to do the opposite. All the creative, abstract, poetic, mystical needs to now, that person's craft needs to go towards logic, reason, science, formula, observation, awareness, practice, to balance the art. At the end of this video, since we're at the end, looking at your mundane life as not separate from your art, you master and put into practice and make useful your occult knowledge. As long as it's separated on a Sunday in a church, you've killed your art. It's become like the heavens separated from earth. You've put it somewhere else. You've compartmentalized it. When the reality, the power of the occult art, the Hermeticism, is the ability to apply it to your being, to your work, to your mode of operation. So it actually requires a higher level of awareness and participation to make you an occultist. You can master the occult arts and never cast a circle, and never find yourself in a ritual temple. Yet you've mastered the art because you applied the principles, you understand the philosophy, and your life is creative that way now. Everything you do is occult. This is the mastery and the use of it. You have to bridge it into your practical everyday life to get the fullness of it.